MoElle-ians. All things MoElle.
Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I'm going to be doing my first ever DIY curly sew-in. I've done plenty of sew-ins on my own hair before, but I've never done a curly sew-in. It's hot outside right now and I miss wearing wash and goes. I just don't miss wearing them on my natural hair. So I figured a curly sew-in was the way to go. So if you want to see how I go from this to this, then just keep watching to see how I achieve this look. And keep in mind, this is my first time, y'all. This is trial and error. Okay. For the install, I'm using my scissors, my thread, and my needle, of course. I have a mesh weaving cap, and then for the hair, I got three 16-inch bundles of Burmese curly. I kind of wish I would have gotten kinky curly, but my vendor didn't have that, so I went with the Burmese. And then I have some clips for sectioning and my fine tooth comb. So my initial plan for this sewing was to have a leave out so that I could use flexi rods to blend my natural hair with the curly weave. So what you see me doing right here is just parting off the sections that I want to use for the leave out so that I can put that section away before I do my braid down. You'll see later on in the video though that I had to pivot because, well, you'll see why I had to pivot. I initially wanted a middle part for this style, so right here you just see me making that middle part nice and crisp, and then I'm just going to do two strand twists to each of those two sections. So that's what I'm doing right here to one side, and then I'll do the same thing to the other side before I go ahead and do my braid down. Now, I'm not even going to hold y'all because this is a curly sew-in. I was not very particular about these braids for the braid down. If I were doing a sew-in using straight bundles or body wave bundles, I would have been a lot more particular about making sure the braids were smaller because you want to have a flat base and have a flat foundation. But because the hair was curly, I feel like I didn't need to do all that, so I literally just threw these braids in. The only thing I was really concerned about was making sure that the braids were conducive to that U-shape pattern that I would want to lay my tracks in. So yeah, the braid down pattern was not perfect, but it was what I needed it to be for the style that I was going for. And then I'm just going to take those two braids that I ended up with and sew them down so that they are also flat before I put the weaving net on. So this is me putting the weaving net on, and some people will go ahead and cut off the excess of the net before they start with the tracks, but I like to do that after. So to start off laying my tracks, I just go ahead and put the needle and thread through the track and then place it where I want it to be on my braid and then start sewing that way. I usually like to start near where my ears are, and I literally just go back and forth from ear to ear in that U-shaped pattern that I was talking about, and I'm basically going to repeat that all the way up until I get to the top of my hair. Now, I'm not a huge fan of cutting my tracks, so when I get to the end of one row and I'm about to start the next row, I like to fold the hair over. I fold the track over, and then on the other side of my head, I just kind of like use my fingers to feel where I want the track to lay, and then I'll put a clip there so that when I'm doing the sewing, it just makes an easier guide for me to follow using my fingers so that I'm not having to keep stopping and looking, and I don't have to use a whole bunch of mirrors and stuff like that. So that's what you see me doing here. I like to flip the track over versus cutting it. And I just repeat all of those steps until I get to the end of the bundle. So what you see here is one bundle installed, and then what I do for the second bundle is the exact same thing that I did for the first bundle. I will put my thread through the bundle, and then I'll just pick right back up where I left off with that first bundle and lay it right there beside where that bundle stopped. And then I'm literally going to do everything all over again until the second bundle is sewn in. So this is what it's looking like after that second bundle has been sewn in, and as you can see, I made my way to the top, and at this point I'm feeling like, okay, this is a lot of hair, so maybe I don't need that third bundle. So I decided to stop right here and go ahead and cut off the net so that I can go ahead and style the hair, style my leave out, and all that good stuff. So here you just see me being really careful with cutting that net off. Anybody trying to cut off no hair. So this is what it's looking like after I cut all of the cap off and take out my leave out. I'm just kind of comparing my hair texture to the texture of the hair, trying to decide the best course of action as far as like defining the curls. And at this point, I'm pretty tired, so I actually decided to stop for the night and then reconvene the next morning to do the defining. So now it's the next day and it's time for styling. And to style today, I'm going to start with the leave out. I'm using some 1/2 inch flexi rods as well as the Palo Santo pattern curl mousse. My thought was that if I combine some of my hair with the weave hair and roll it up on the flexi rod using this mousse, that it would create the best blend. So that's what I initially decided to do. So that's what you see me doing here. I'm just putting the product on, making sure it's nice and smooth, and then rolling my hair up as well as a piece of the weave onto the flexi rod. And I'm going to do that for the entire leave-in. So this is what we're working with after all of the flexi rods have been applied, and now it is time to define the rest of this hair, and I'm just going to do it like I would do a normal wash and go. So I'm going to take that leave-in conditioner that's from that same pattern Palo Santo line, and I'm going to mix it with some water in a spray bottle, and I'm going to drench each of the larger sections with this leave-in slash water mixture and just kind of work that through really well before I then go in on top of that with that same mousse that I used for the flexi rods, and that is just going to add a little bit of additional hold to it. I really love these two products together. I've used them on my natural hair before, and I thought that they would work really well on this curly hair. So I will take a smaller section and just work the mousse in, and then kind of use my fingers to shingle or define the curls how I want them to be defined. And yeah, I'm just going to repeat that process throughout the entire head until all of the sections have product on them and are defined. And then after I finish all of the sections, I'm just going to sit under my hooded dryer to give the hair time to dry, as well as give those flexi rods time to set. So this is what it's looking like after I sat under my hooded dryer for about an hour, just giving you all a 360 so you can see how the curls turned out. The curls themselves look really good. So for the flexi rod takedown, I'm taking my Amika Superfruit Star lightweight oil. I really like this oil, and I just put it on my fingers before taking the flexi rods out so that I didn't create a whole bunch of unnecessary frizz. So the curls actually look good when I took them out of the flexi rods. Taking them down now, and then I'm going to start to separate them with my fingers, as well as separate some of the curls from the wash and go essentially that I did with the curly bundles. And it's at this point that I realized I don't really like how this turned out. Like, the curls look good, but I just feel like it was giving Rick James, and that is not the look that I was going for. So I decided to take out my edge control and slick down my edges, and I'm still just kind of playing with the hair, trying to force myself to like it, but it just wasn't giving what I wanted it to give. I was not pleased with how the leave out was blending with the curls. So I just decided to revamp. I decided to style my own leave out like I would do a wash and go. So instead of going in with the mousse though, I went in with the gel just to give my hair a little bit more of a hold, and then I put it in a ponytail with some of the curly bundles just so that it could look a little bit more natural. And this is what we are working with after doing that. I also went back in the back and I added about 3 or 4 more tracks just to make it look a little more full, make it look a little more natural, and this was the final result. I like this so much better. So yeah, this was not a tutorial. I literally just wanted to show you guys what I did to achieve the style. And yeah, I think this little half up, half down situation is cute, but we gonna continue to work on it and see what other styles we come up with while I'm wearing this sew-in. Okay. But that's all I got for this one. I hope that you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.
No, I'm still going, yeah. Who that is? All things MoElle. I said, who that is? All things MoElle. Man, who that is? All things MoElle. Okay, who that is? All things MoElle.